Hello, I'm Adam Kielich, the managing attorney of the Kielich Law Firm in Bedford, Texas. And today's short video is going to discuss the court system in Tarrant County, Texas. This is where my office is, so I'm well versed in the court system that we have here. Basically, just going to give an overview of the types of courts that we have, the types of cases that they hear, and how these courts interact with one another. So basically, we have two sets of courts in Tarrant County, as well as pretty much everywhere else. We have criminal courts, and then we have multiple types of civil courts. Although there are multiple types of civil courts, all of those courts sort of function together in handling different types of civil claims. They apply some of the same statutes, some of the same procedural rules together. So we usually group them together and exclude the criminal courts into their own sort of category where they have their own statutes and their own procedural rules. So we'll go ahead and get started with the criminal courts. With the criminal courts in Tarrant County, there's three basic levels of courts that handle cases. At the lowest level, we have municipal courts, which are the city courts, and then we have justice of the peace courts. The municipal courts, there's one in each incorporated county, in each city in Tarrant County. These courts handle primarily Class C misdemeanors within the city limits. These include your traffic tickets, minor in possession type cases, citations, other relatively minor criminal offenses within the city. They'll also handle administrative claims and code violations as they apply to city codes. These are things like parking tickets, if your house is out of code compliance with the yard, or you've left the trash bins out for too long. If you get a ticket for these kinds of things, you're going to go into your municipal court, or if it's a county code violation, you're going to go into the justice of the peace courts, particularly where there's no actual municipal court, if you're somewhere in an unincorporated part of the county. In Tarrant County, we have 8 justice of the peace courts. They're broken up into precincts. There's 3 precincts in the middle of the county. These are mostly within Fort Worth. There's one county that sort of sits in the middle of the east side of the county, and then the other 4 sit in the corners of the county where all the suburbs are. Above those courts, we have our county criminal courts. The county criminal courts primarily hear Class A and Class B misdemeanors. These are your more severe misdemeanors, your theft cases, some of the more serious assault charges. Your initial pass at DUI, I believe, is a misdemeanor. Some of the criminal charges that are not quite serious enough to be felonies, but more serious than your Class C, relatively minor stuff. The county courts do contain some offenses that can result in imprisonment. So they're definitely a much more serious court than going into your local municipal court for a traffic ticket. The county courts also act as appellate courts for the justice of the peace and the municipal courts when they hear those Class C misdemeanor cases and the code violation cases. Above these sit the district criminal courts. The district criminal courts exclusively hear all felony criminal cases in Tarrant County. They're the serious cases. They're where the worst cases go: murder, aggravated assault, rape, these kind of these kind of criminal offenses. In Tarrant County, if an appeal is placed in either the county or district courts for those Class A or B misdemeanors or felonies, those appeals are heard by the Second Court of Appeals for the state of Texas, which is based in Fort Worth. The Second Court of Appeals hears all of the criminal appeals coming out of those courts, and an appeal to the Second Court of Appeals in Tarrant County will then go up to the highest criminal court in Texas, but that's in Austin, so we're not going to talk about it right now. But those are our criminal courts here in Tarrant County. We also have special probate courts that exclusively hear probate-related cases. These are cases that fall under the Texas Probate Code, as well as deal with a handful of other issues. The probate courts in Tarrant County are a special feature of being part of one of the larger counties in Texas. In counties with smaller populations, they do not have their own probate courts that deal with exclusively these probate issues. These cases are heard by other courts in that county. In Tarrant County and the other large counties in Texas, we have special county probate courts that handle these probate issues exclusively, just because it's more efficient to break up the court responsibilities than have a set of county judges who hear all of these different kinds of civil and probate cases, along with those county level criminal cases. So much in the same way that we have specific county criminal courts, we have these specific county probate courts, and these courts hear issues related to wills, estate administration, trust administration, guardianship, and civil commitment. What's unusual about these courts is that they can hear cases related to some of these issues. So for example, there may be an estate administration case that also has personal injury claims brought by the estate, and these cases might be beyond the monetary limits for a normal civil county court to hear, but because of their special probate status and the absence of a statutory monetary limit on claims, they can actually hear claims that other county courts would not. So they are very unique courts that we have in Tarrant County. We also have another set of civil county courts. These are our civil county courts of law. These courts hear the sort of intermediate civil claims. They hear a lot of the personal injury claims, contract claims. Their powers are effectively the same as all other civil courts that hear civil litigation claims. They've got greater jurisdictional authority than the Justice of the Peace Courts, but not quite as much as the district courts, because they do have a statutory monetary limit for how much they can award in damages on a case. And again, remember that this is different from the county probate courts, which lack that limit. In addition to our county civil courts, we do have at the county level those Justice of the Peace Courts. We talked about how they can handle certain types of criminal charges and code violations. They also hear smaller civil claims. Their jurisdictional limit is up to $10,000. They cannot hear a claim that has been pled by the plaintiff to be worth more than $10,000. And should a claim actually turn out to be worth more than $10,000, they can never award more than $10,000 in damages, excluding interest. These justice of the peace courts are small claims courts. They're the people's court. They're far more like the kind of court TV shows you see. The rules are more relaxed. The parties come in. They're not putting on long presentation of trials. The cases are usually based upon the testimony of the parties. There may be witnesses, there may be evidence presented, but it's definitely a much more relaxed environment than the county courts or the district courts. Above both of those courts in the civil system, just like in the criminal courts, we have civil district courts that hear exclusively civil type claims. These courts have jurisdiction to hear a case that might be worth an unlimited amount of money. There's no upper limit to the damages that these courts can award. In addition to the regular civil district courts that hear civil litigation matters related to monetary damages and injunctions and so forth, we also have specific district family courts that hear exclusively family cases in Tarrant County. And this is again a feature of being in a very large county, that we have district courts where the family cases are broken out and exclusively heard. In smaller counties where there's a district court, those district courts hear all of the civil cases, all of the family cases. They may even hear all of the criminal cases as well if it's a particularly small district. But here in Texas, we have enough of a population that we have so many district courts that they can be broken out into specialties. We even have one district family court that is exclusively over juvenile cases. These are not the custody cases, but they hear exclusively juvenile crime cases related to specific types of juvenile crimes that are found in the Texas Family Code. This doesn't include your minors in possession of alcohol or curfew violations. Those are going to be handled by those municipal courts. These are far more serious juvenile cases. They'll also hear actual criminal cases where juveniles are being charged with more serious offenses that would otherwise be heard in the district courts. For example, in the very popular, or very well known, maybe not popular, but very well known affluenza case, that was a felony case that was tried before the federal judicial, let me try this one again, the District Family Juvenile Court in Tarrant County, rather than being heard in the normal district criminal court, because the defendant was a minor. But normally, this juvenile court only hears cases related to juvenile crime rather than divorces or custody cases. Within our judicial system, there are also a handful of specific types of claims that are heard in one court or the other. For example, eviction cases are only heard within the justice of the peace. No other court is going to hear those kind of cases. Family cases can include, just like the probate courts, related claims. There can be personal injury claims within a divorce. Those might be found in strange places, but they can be brought there. Some of these more nuanced details, obviously beyond the scope of this video, but it's worth pointing out that there is some small detail that's been left out here that might be relevant in certain situations. Otherwise, the other cases that we have, or the other courts that we have here, I talked a little bit during the when discussing the criminal courts that we have the Second Court of Appeals here in Tarrant County, That Court of Appeals also hears all of the civil appeals. So regardless of whether you've got criminal or civil cases, they're all going into the same appellate court here in Tarrant County. But if you appeal beyond the second court, those go to the Supreme Court of Texas down in Austin, which is different from the final court that oversees the criminal appeals in Texas. Additionally, we have federal courts here in Tarrant County. In Tarrant County, we sit in the United States Northern District for Texas. So the federal district hears all of the federal civil and criminal cases. The Northern District is large enough with a large enough population that there's actually both a Dallas division and a Fort Worth division that hear cases in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There's a number of other divisions in the other part of the Northern District, which includes the Panhandle and some of the area just south of the Panhandle, as far down as San Angelo. There's also a Western, Eastern, and Southern District that handles the rest of the state. Those federal courts are entirely separate from our state courts. Appeals from the federal district courts, they go out to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in Louisiana, which is even further away than what we want to talk about today. But those are the courts that we have. Additionally, there are a handful of administrative courts floating around. There's the Commissioner's Court, which doesn't hear any kind of cases. There are also arbitration panels and some various other non-judicial hearing systems in the county. But primarily, our courts are broken up between those criminal courts and then the various types of civil and district and county level civil courts that we have. If you were in a smaller county, you might only have a handful of municipal courts. You would certainly have your Justice of the Peace courts, but there might only be one or two county courts, and then you would feed into oftentimes just one district court, and then from there the appellate courts. So in Tarrant County, we do have a very large judicial system across the county, especially if you take into consideration how many cities there are, and that each one of those has its own municipal courts.